This is Michael Blackstone, and this is the Sheriff Show. We're privileged to have our guest, Sheriff Gary Parsons, Lee County Sheriff. Gary, today we're going to talk about things that's important to all of us, especially with our children and kids, and that is the school resource officer program that you have and things that you've got going on in the school. So tell us about the program and just everything we, the general public, need to know about what goes on in our schools and as far as security and stuff like that.
Well, as many of you know, there are people in the state legislature who want to eliminate the school resource officer grants, and some jurisdictions in the state have eliminated school resource officers. We're fortunate that we have a school resource officer grant active here in Lee County. That's at Thomas Walker. Retired state trooper Tim Deal fills that position. Then I have Officer A.J. McQueen at Lee High, but he is not grant funded. He is actually one of my funded road officers that I have to give up to supply a school resource officer at Lee High. The reason for that is we had another grant, but the state requirement is that you have to have 3 years experience before you can be a school resource officer. So no one's going to give up a state funded position to take a grant funded position that has to be renewed every year. So it's almost impossible to find anybody with 3 years experience. We were able to get Tim because he was retired, but not everyone that retires wants to come back to work. Me and previous school superintendent actually went to Richmond and met with the governor's staff about changing the guidelines on these grants so that I could hire someone into a road position without the 3 years experience, and then move one of my officers into the school resource officer grant position and get around it that way. But they weren't receptive to that. So anyway, the fact of the matter is we're fortunate to have one. It's grant funded at Thomas Walker, and we have one that I'm funding or my office is funding at Lee High, and they go out to the other schools and make. And we also have. If there's a situation, they go out. If there's a theft or a fight or something, they go. But also the road officers go and do walkthroughs of the elementary and middle schools. At one time, the town of Pennington had a school resource officer. I think they gave that up and for the middle school in Pennington. And one time, the Jonesville Town Council had a grant at Jonesville Middle School, and I think they gave that up. So we try to, as well as the towns and us, we try to do walkthroughs of the schools, and state police do walkthroughs and do as much as we can. But I wish we had the officers, and I think there's more grants that would be available. I just can't find the people that can fill those positions.
So let me ask you this question. So a lot of people don't understand the actual funding on stuff. There's always the cops are not paid that much money, and they their lives are in danger, and all that goes along with that thinking, and then how many officers are running around the county, and when I need a cop, there I can't find one, and then when I don't need one, they're all around, and all of the standard thinking that goes on out there. But really, what is the actual budgeting that goes on per? I know it's per populace of people and stuff like that. So explain that to how you actually get funded, because I think recently didn't we discuss that it was you were down like 3 officers over Norm. So
we most people don't realize that all officers' salaries come from the state, not the county. The state of Virginia has an entity they call the State Compensation Board. They determine how many officers I've got. They classify them as either bailiffs, or road officers, security officers. They make the decisions about their salaries, about the position, and it's all based on population and workload. The county board, for the most part, they pay for our vehicles, our equipment, the things that we have to do our daily work. But the actual salary funding all comes from the state. So, we've actually had some board members that came in that in the past, who've said, well, when I come in the office, I'm going to eliminate some of those police officers. They got too many and save the county money. Well, it's not going to save the county money. It's not provided by the county. So we are totally state funded salary-wise.
Okay. So the state actually sets the wage of the deputy that's on the road.
Right.
So this is not a localized deal, and
No.
this is straight from the state. So then, how many officers are you? You're actually capped off based on people. How many officers are you allowed to have on staff?
As many as they'll fund me. But see, also, when we went to the 911 system, the compensation board also funds me 5 dispatchers, and they're paid for by the state. There's 5 more, I think it's 5 more, that are provided by the county. So when we went to the 911 system, I basically gave up my dispatchers to the 911 system. Some offices in the state, some sheriff's offices, which I could ask, and they would have to approve that, actually say, give the sheriff's office a dispatch office. We're not going to be a part of 911. But that would, of course, be foolish. So also the state funds half the dispatchers in that office. Total, with school, and we have some grant positions like victim witness and domestic violence and things like that. We've got a grant position for somebody to watch the door every day. We're almost to 50 people. That's counting all the dispatchers. Now, the dispatch is under a 911 center, but the board a few years ago gave me control over daily operations. So I kind of consider them my employees. But if something, they have a 911 supervisor that oversees that, and there's usually no problems I have to deal with. But about 50 people is what we have. Probably about 30-some officers, including bailiffs and everything. It's pretty good. I mean, for Lee County, it's a good-sized department. But even so, we still don't have enough people to do what we have to do. I know, like I've said once before in one of our interviews, people see officers running up and down the road and they say they're not doing anything. Just because they're not running their blue lights don't mean they don't have 3 calls backed up. They may not be
Right.
blue light running calls, but they have to get to them because you, the citizens there, want to know why someone's not coming here because my neighbor's dog's in my yard, and we go to calls that a lot of agencies won't go to. A lot of agencies have gone to the fact that if it's a misdemeanor call, they won't come even take a report because they say you got to come to the office. We're still doing the same services that we've always done. It's very time consuming, but the citizens that elected us there, they expect that type of service, and as long as I'm sheriff, we're going to try to continue to provide it.
So the actual resource areas, especially in the towns, is the sheriff's department covering those schools as well?
The towns are doing most of the walkthroughs in those schools because it's easier for them to do. Like Pennington does walkthroughs at Pennington Middle, Pound Jonesville does walkthroughs at Jonesville.
And is that the actual, whoever is on duty at that time, they
Correct.
just swing by the school and do a walkthrough?
Randomly do walkthroughs unless we're called on, and then the county does the ones out in the county like Flatwoods, Dryden, Elk Knob, and those. We do walkthroughs of those.
So this is not a sting or a slam against your department or the other township departments, but when you're having to operate in that type of situation, which all comes back to money from the state, are you guys able to effectively provide the security that we need for our kids? Do you feel that we need push on at the state to get more distinct funding here?
There should be an officer in every school.
And how can a citizen, a normal everyday Lee County citizen, how can we help effectuate that?
Just let your legislators know that but it's not our legislators is not the problem. Be honest with you, it's not the Southwest Virginia legislators, it's the legislators in Northern Virginia. They have a lot of issues up there that we don't have. The fact that some boards of supervisors, some school boards and some jurisdictions up there have banned school resource officers, tells you a lot about their mindset up there, and that's certainly not ours. Our argument down here was, well, if you're not going to fund them up there and they're already funded, just let us have them. We'll gladly take the funding for those positions.
Right.
But again, I have the problem of filling those positions if I have them.
Based on the experience.
Based on the requirements they put on it. And if they would just tweak that a little bit and adjust it for us, it would work out fine. But, bureaucracy won't allow common sense, and everyone knows that.
Right. Well, it's interesting, and I guess, of course, November 2nd, with the election of a new governor, no matter who actually gets in there, will probably dictate, what comes in the future for
Right.
this specific issue. Now, can private citizens make donations and fund those areas, or is that something that's restricted to grants
I've
and
never had that mentioned or the possibility of that happening.
Right.
It's really a pretty big expense once you pay fringe benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
If you pay a salary, you're talking $70,000 a year for just an average salary and fringe benefits.
And that's just for one person.
Plus, and we provide a car, we have to provide a vehicle, we have to provide gas because of and the equipment, the uniforms. So it is a pretty big expense.
Yeah.
But when you consider some of the foolish things the state wastes money on, it's a pretty common sense expense.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing, is there any COVID relief money that can help your department or the schools in this specific area?
Well, the problem is that COVID relief money is temporary money, so you might have a quick fix for just a moment, but it's not going to last for, and the fix needs to be continuous, a continuation of the program. We are asking the Board of Supervisors to give our sworn officers hazard pay. A lot of counties around us have done that. Well, just about every county around us have done that because they were out here in the COVID situation and
Right.
had the fear of taking it home to their loved ones. And when you arrive on a scene, a domestic scene or something, you don't have time to get out and say, "Hey, do you have COVID?" You have to waller right in, and there's blood and sweat, and people's fighting, and you have to get right in that situation immediately. And there's no way you can protect yourself. So we are asking them to give our officers hazard pay, and hopefully they'll look at the situation and do that for us.
Last question for today, and we recently did a show with the superintendent at the school. Tell us your viewpoint and what kind of mandates you're under as far as the vaccine. Do your officers have to be vaccinated?
No, they do not, and I have no intentions of even considering that. I wish more of them would get the vaccine. I'm certainly pro-vaccine. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm not agreeable with mandating it.
Gotcha. Good deal. Well, Gary, it's been a pleasure this week, and we'll be looking forward to next week, the Sheriff's Show, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you.